Hello, I'm Paul Gilbert, and welcome to Strategic Leadership. Today, we're going to be talking about organizational culture. So, there's a great quote from the management guru of the 20th century, Peter Drucker, and he said, "Culture eats strategy for breakfast." And what he meant was that almost regardless of what kind of direction you might set, you can only move an organization forward if it fits the culture of that organization. And culture is such an interesting thing because it is largely unseen. The great analogy for organizational culture is an iceberg. So you see the little bit at the top, but it's giant under the water. And there are all of these various factors of values and assumptions and things that are known within that organizational culture, but pretty much not written down. And you have to kind of be in that group to figure out the way they think and act, the values they have, and the direction they're going. And it really drives a whole lot of interesting behavior. So, in today's episode, we are going to be looking at three things: how culture is the number one issue related to organizational performance, how to figure out what culture you have, and how to change that culture if you want to. Today, we're going to be looking at some great research on organizational culture that is in this book called Diagnosing and Changing Organizational Culture, based on the Competing Values Framework. It is authored by Kim Cameron and Robert Quinn. The model is kind of simple, if you will. It's four quadrants. At the top, you have flexibility. At the bottom, you have control. Then the right-left axis, on the left side, you have an internal focus. And on the right side, you have an external focus. Again, the top of the scale is flexibility. The bottom of the scale is control. Those are opposite things. The left and right, left side is internal focus, right side is external focus. So you wind up with four different organizational cultures that are defined by this model. Let's start with hierarchy. So hierarchy is at the bottom, so it is control focused, and it's to the left, so it's internal and control. So in the hierarchy model of culture, you have rules, you have specialization, it's impersonal, it's highly accountable. There's a very, very clear chain of command, and that chain of command sort of drives everything. This model is very common in government, but certainly many large corporations also have it. So if we stay down into the control mode, but just shift it from an internal focus to an external focus, we wind up with market. And market is where a lot of bigger companies wind up. It still on paper looks very hierarchical and everything is very controlled. However, the main feature that's different from the sort of government focused hierarchy is that they are focused on the market. When you're focused on the market, the customer is king. They are very focused on profitability. They're focused on the transaction cost. So they want things to run smoothly and efficiently and drive down the cost and win in that market. There is an assumption out there in the market culture that they're in a highly competitive, if you will, hostile environment, and they must succeed. They must compete, they must win. And that drives all of their decisions. Also, in the difference between Amazon and Whole Foods, which Amazon purchased a few years ago. Whole Foods was a team structure, and Amazon is very much of a hierarchical structure that's in the market area. So if you think about it, you can buy something on Amazon and it comes in at or close to the lowest price, delivered very quickly. They very much focus on transaction costs and are large or complicated, but very focused on efficiency and winning in the market. Now, let's go to the opposite side. So with market, we're down in the lower right. We are focused on control and focused on the customer, the external. Let's go up to flexible, so the top rank, and over to the left, which is the internally focused flexible organization. The internally focused flexible organization is called the clan culture, clan being family. Many organizations that have this culture are family businesses. They tend to be very, whether they're technically a family business or not, they're very family focused. They're very teamwork focused. They want everyone that works there to be happy. And that drives their mentality and what they're all about. Success is defined by their internal climate and concern for their employees. I have an example. So I once worked for an organization that had this culture. When I was in college, I worked for a motorcycle shop. When a new product would come in, when a new motorcycle, a new bike would come in, we'd wait until all the customers were out of the shop, and we'd lock the door and we'd put up a sign that said, we'll be back in a half an hour. And everyone in that shop, the salespeople, the parts people, the mechanics, everyone would go out back, and we would all take turns playing with the new toy. We'd all hop on the new bike. We'd ride it up. We'd ride it back. We'd talk about it. We'd laugh. We'd have a good time. And after everyone had had their turn, the manager would say, "Okay, now it's time for us to get back to work." And we would all go back. We'd open up the door again. We'd welcome the customers in. The customers were there, to pay the bills, but we were there to have fun and enjoy our love of motorcycles. So it's a perfect example of a clan organizational culture where the focus is internal, and let's have a good time. Let's make sure everyone's happy. Let's do this for the staff of this organization. It's an interesting model. It's not the most interesting model. The most interesting model is the next one, the last one. So again, we're at the top of the quadrant. So it's flexibly focused instead of control focused, but we're flexibly focused towards the external, towards the customer, not internally. And this one has kind of a crazy name. It is called AdHocracy, kind of like an ad hoc committee, which is, you set up for a short period of time and then it's gone. AdHocracy is a governance form that is very focused on the here, the now, the how do we get this done. The perfect example of this would be Silicon Valley and all the tech companies that are out there. It is focused on creativity, flexibility. It is informal. It has a flat organizational model. So it's much more equal and much more focused on creativity. So you think about how Google expects their employees to spend a certain amount of time on things outside of their direct job description. They want them to do that because they are looking always for the newest, greatest thing, the new thing that will turn the market around. And many or most of the technology firms, they may approach it slightly differently, but they have the same culture. They're looking for the new, greatest technological leap. They're going to work all night to get it. They're very focused on the customer, on getting this product, but they're doing it in a very loose and less structured way because they realize the best idea may or may not come from the person at the top of the food chain. It may come from someone else who is in the organization that has a great idea, and they can grab that idea and amplify it and do something great. AdHocracy is kind of a cool, fun culture that is very different. So its opposite extreme is the hierarchy model. And the clan model's opposite extreme is the market model. With that, you get these 4 quadrants. Well, thank you for joining us for this episode. There is a lot more content just like this on the Strategic Leadership Podcast. So I'd really encourage you to go on to whatever podcast channel you want to, whether it's Spotify, Apple, Google, whichever one you want. Look for Strategic Leadership and join us there. We have all the same content, but in a longer format, more detailed, a lot more information. I hope you join us there. Please tell your friends about it. Please like, subscribe, do all those things, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.